Hi, my name is Devi. I would like to present my research work around influencing the timing, quantity, and quality of student peer review feedback using gamification. So we are going to start with the motivation of this work. One of the main problems in computer science is that the class size is growing bigger. It is hard to assess when the classes are very large, so instructors are looking for alternatives to assess students' work. One of the things that they're doing is using the automated tools to give feedback. It is possible for giving feedback on correctness, but it's not easy to do with style or quality of the code. So at this stage, humans are still required to do that. Because academic or individual teachers don't have time to do it, so they are turning to students. So what technique can be used for students to provide feedback to their peers? One of the methods that scale well is peer review. It involving students to assess the work produced by their peers. It scales well because the larger the classes, the more peers you have to provide feedback. People have studied peer review for many years. There is a huge body of literature on peer review, and there have been a lot of benefit reported by the literature. It has been used in a wide variety of disciplines, including computer science. Teachers in computer science has introduced peer review of code or peer code review to students in classes so that they can experience its benefit. Peer code review is mainly peer reviews that focus on the programming codes. Besides in education, code review has been widely used in industry. It involves developers carefully assessing one another's code for mistake, and it frequently included as part of the software development process to identify as many defects as possible and to improve the quality of the code of software development projects. There has been a lot of benefits identified by the literature of peer code review in industry, and of course the purpose of practicing peer code review in classes are a little bit different. But it is overlap what the industry is interested, which is in the quality of the code. In software industry, peer code review is people's job. They are motivated to do it so that they produce better code or good quality of code. But unlike in industry, in tertiary education, students often see this as an extra task imposed by the lectures. They see code review as marking, and marking is the thing that the teacher should do. So certainly, one of the problems practicing peer code review in programming courses is the low motivation, because they do not see the intrinsic value in the way that industry need to do. Well, there has been a lot of literature saying the benefit of peer review when it comes using it in the classroom. Students don't see this benefit. They often have a lack of motivation, and we really want to work on improving their motivation. This is the key problem that we want to solve. So, how do we address motivation? How do we motivate people? We can use gamification as a way to motivate and improve students' behavior. Gamification is the use of game elements such as points, pages, leaderboards, or levels, and it has been used in a variety of fields such as commerce, health, or education. We have seen some examples on gamification. It is commonly used in websites where users might be rewarded with points or pages for engaging in certain activities such as doing 5 tasks in a row or the 3 tasks all correct. So our main research goal is to investigate how gamification impacts students' behavior in peer review activities. This research proposes gamification as an approach to engage specific behavior of undergraduate computing students in peer review activities, particularly peer review of programming codes. To address the main research question, we break it down into 3 research questions as shown here. Because programming code is specific to computer science, so the first research question looks at how has peer review of programming code has been used in classes as opposed to other kind of artifact. To answer the first research question, we conducted a systematic literature review of peer code review, and it has been published. We look at why it has been practiced in classes, how has it been implemented, and what are the benefits and the barriers. The main findings of this review, including the identification and the classification of variety of methods used for conducting peer code review activities, such as whether it is conducted individually or in groups, using paper-based or online tools, whether they employ the rubrics or not, or whether they are anonymous or not. We also identify several advantages of student peer code review, and the main benefits are consistent with the findings of other disciplines, which is the development of skills or knowledge. And the last, we also identify the challenges of implementing student peer code review, and one of the biggest barrier is the lack of motivation. The second research question looks at how gamification has been implemented and evaluated in general peer review activities. We conducted a systematic review, and the main findings of this review including the refinement of peer review model from HEMA and the identification of the most gamified activities in the literature, which is the reviewing artifact and creating artifact. And we also identified the least gamified activities, such as the viewing artifacts or rating feedback. We also identified the 3 different metrics for gamifying peer review activities. We found that quantity and quality measurement were the most popular approach to assign rewards for students, while the time-focused mechanics has not been studied much, so it is an opportunity to explore. We also identified the types of artifacts that have been reviewed in the literature. The study in the literature are mostly in computer science area, but only few of them are looking at code as the artifact to review. The third research question aims to connect the findings from previous research question and investigate how this relates. This final research question is to investigate the impact of gamification on students' behavior. We design and develop the tools that use gamification and ran 3 formal studies with control group and gamification group to evaluate the impact of the game elements and mechanic used to several targeted behavior in peer code review activities. Here are some examples of the tools, and the tool screenshot and some example of the game elements in our studies, such as the energy bar, the battery, and badges. So now let's talk about the experimental studies to evaluate the impact of gamification to students' behavior. We developed several game mechanics that focus on time, quantity, and quality, and have applied this to 3 different studies. The majority of the targeted behaviors are motivating reviewers on reviewing base code as the main important activity in peer code review. We have different mechanics to motivate students to change their behavior in submission time, reviewing more feedback, and producing higher quality of feedback. Besides those, we also encourage students to read and rate feedback they have seen or received during the peer code review. The time-focused mechanics were designed to influence 2 specific behaviors. The first one, reviewers submit reviews early. So we want to encourage reviewers to reduce procrastination and gives the authors more time to consider the feedback. The second behavior, reviewers spread out the time of review submission so that students can have idle time between reviews by distributing the time of review submission more evenly. This idle time may be useful for the code reviewers to read and reflect on the code and provide constructive feedback to code authors. The quantity-focused mechanics were designed to influence two specific behaviors. The first one, reviewers submit more feedback so that they have more opportunity, improving their reviewing skills through the practice and also develop their programming-related skills. Furthermore, authors can receive more feedback and learn to accept criticism. The second behavior is that authors or reviewers read more feedback. By rating the received feedback as well as the feedback from other reviewers, students can have the opportunity to reflect on the feedback and learn vicariously. And the last mechanics, the quality-focused mechanics, were designed to influence reviewers to produce higher quality reviews, like more accurate review scores, first instructor-generated code examples, and more longer or detailed comments that are valuable for their peers. So now let's take a look at the first experimental study. The focus of this study was to evaluate the effect of gamification on the timeliness and the quantity of review submission. We evaluate these two mechanics on students who enroll in a programming course and carried out two peer review assignments. We use several game elements such as energy bar, points, leaderboard, badges, and levels. The effect of time-focused mechanics on the earliest submission time of reviewers did not show any significant difference. However, we found a significant number of students who submitted higher number of reviews in assignment 2, and we also found a significant number of reviews submitted by students in the gamification group for both assignment 1 and assignment 2. The second experimental study was to evaluate the time-focused mechanics to influence students spreading out their review works over a period of time, and evaluate the quantity-focused mechanics to influence students submitted higher number of feedback ratings. We use several game elements such as batteries, points, leaderboards, badges, and levels in 3 code review tasks. The result from the log data indicate that students in the gamification group affected by the time-focused mechanics. The mean number of points in the gamification group was higher than the control group as a result of spreading the reviewer works according to the time of the primary battery recharging. The scatter plot in peer review assignment 1 support the findings. We can see that each dot in the graph represents a review submitted by a reviewer on a given day. The green dots indicates that a review submission received 200 points as a result of students choose to wait between reviews. Therefore, the pattern of review submission in the gamification group resembles a green dotted diagonal submission pattern. We also see that some of the red dotted review submission form a vertical pattern, particularly in 2 or 3 days before the deadline. This indicates that the time-focused mechanics had little effect on reviewers making this submission. Furthermore, the responses of the survey question indicate that students in the gamification group were tended to wait until the primary battery was fully charged before submitting a review in order to earn points, to be top scorer in leaderboards, or to review periodically. And here we can see some example of their survey responses. For the mechanics that are related to the quantity mechanics, the results show a significant difference in the number of rating activities performed by students in the gamification group. This graph shows the frequency and total rating submitted by students in both groups. Finally, the last experimental study was to evaluate the effect of quality-focused mechanics to the accuracy of students' review scores and the length and quality of comments submitted by students. We use points, leaderboard, and badges in a practice review and a peer review task. In the practice review task, we ask students to review 5 code examples. The result from the practice review task showed that the quality-focused mechanics did not affect students in the gamification to provide significantly accurate review scores compared to the control group. On the other hand, from the peer review task, We analyzed students' work and found that students in the gamification group wrote significantly longer comments than those in control group. Additionally, after manually categorizing written comments, students in the gamification group provided significantly higher number of comments in all general and specific categories, and particularly in general positive, general advice, and specific advice categories. According to the students' perception in the survey, we did not find significant difference in the overall quality of the feedback received and provided to peers. In summary, our findings in the review work show that gamification can potentially motivate students to participate in peer review activities, and we also found that peer code review can support student learning and skill development. Therefore, we encourage educators to implement such activities as a pedagogical approach to help students develop the technical and other skills for future careers. From our evaluation studies of gamified peer code review tool, our findings suggest that gamification can influence the timing, quality, and quantity of feedback in peer code review activities. Therefore, we encourage educators to incorporate gamification into peer code review system used in large classrooms. We observe that with our point system attached to the energy bar, students tend to accumulate their points on the last day by submitting more feedback. Therefore, to motivate students to submit their review works earlier, we can modify the point system in the future so that in a few days near the review deadline, the point system was significantly less than the value we use in our study. Additionally, after implementing time and quantity focus mechanics, we observed that the gamification group wrote shorter comments than those in control group, particularly in peer review assignment. There is an indication that students might attempt to gaming the system by minimizing the time and effort spent on each review and writing brief comments. Therefore, we suggest for future work that time or quantity focus mechanics can be implemented alongside with the quality mechanics to prevent these undesirable behaviors. One of the issues we had when we implementing the battery recharging time system at the end of the review submission, we observed that students may attempt to rapidly write their reviews so that they can start the primary battery recharging time immediately after submission. Therefore, for future work, we suggest to modify the recharging at the start of the review activity to avoid the rushing behavior. Additionally, we also suggest to add grace period to complete the review so that when they complete the review, they will receive the reward and the primary battery will display the remaining time. But if the students do not complete the review within the grace period, the primary battery will return to its initial state and they will not receive any reward. Also, in this study, we do not have any mechanism to provide reward for students who provide accurate review to their peers. So future work may employ machine learning technique to detect the discrepancies between student scores and written feedback. Therefore, we can automatically rewarding students for accurate review scores and written comments to their peers. In conclusion, our research work has contributed to rigorous systematic literature review and has been published in 2 journal venues. We have designed and developed gamified peer review tool, and lastly, we make several contributions as a result of our 3 experimental studies. The report of these experiments have been published in 2 conferences and a journal venue.